Hi kids, welcome back to Wildcat Storytime. Last time we were together, we read the story An Extraordinary Egg by Leo Leone. It was about a frog who liked to go find special treasures and share them with his friends. Did you guys go out and find some special things outside your house? Wow, I see you found some really cool things. Today, I have another really great story for you. It's called Lyle the Crocodile by Bernard Waber. This is the house on East 88th Street. Mr. and Mrs. Prim and their son Joshua live in the house on East 88th Street. So does Lyle. Listen. Swish, swash, splash, swoosh. That's Lyle. I wonder what pet makes that kind of noise. Lyle the Crocodile. He's a crocodile? Lyle was very happy living with the Prim family. He was especially happy when he was being useful, like helping Joshua brush up on schoolwork. But if Lyle was happy, he was making someone else unhappy, perfectly miserable in fact. And that someone else was Loretta, Mr. Grumps' cat. Mr. Grumps lived just 2 houses away from the Prims, and whenever his cat caught even the slightest glimpse of Lyle, she would fling herself into a nervous fit. Lyle wanted desperately to win Loretta over. He tried flashing his sweetest, most toothsome smile at her to show how really friendly he was. But this only frightened the distrustful animal even more. Let's make a really toothsome smile, everybody. Ready? Here we go. That is kind of scary, isn't it? In the end, Mrs. Grumps, who was even more excitable than his cat, would burst from the house, shaking an angry fist at Lyle. "Something will have to be done about that crocodile," he shouted, as Lyle fled to the safety of his own house. To take his mind off his troubles with Loretta and Mr. Grumps, Lyle filled his days playing with Joshua and his friends. He loved being it when they played tag or hide and seek. He could skip double dutch 100 times without missing. It came as no particular surprise that Lyle could high jump, but Loretta, who was just let out for an airing, was very surprised. She was terribly surprised. Loretta was so surprised and so shaken, she fled to the nearest tree, and no amount of coaxing would bring her down. Not until Mr. Grumps arrived to rescue her and comfort her would she consider coming down. "Something will have to be done about that crocodile," stormed Mr. Grumps. Now Mr. Grumps was really furious. Now he knew he would be snappy, irritable, and impossible to live with when he returned to his job in the big department store the following day. For the next several days, Mrs. Prim thought it best to keep Lyle close at her side. Together they fussed about the kitchen, preparing good things for the family to eat. And when the weather permitted, they took lunch in the park. Lyle was always one for sharing. They even took trips downtown. There was so much to see in the big city, and so much to do. Mrs. Prim could spend hours just browsing around the antique stores. Lyle could spend hours watching building construction, and they both loved to ice skate. One day, Mrs. Prim and Lyle went shopping in a big department store. Unfortunately for everyone, it turned out to be the very same department store that Mr. Grumps worked in. And unfortunately, they were to hear from Mr. Grumps all too soon. For it was his voice that suddenly broke in over the loudspeaker to announce a sale in the pajama department. Immediately, it was as if everyone in the store was in desperate need of pajamas. Separated from Mrs. Prim, Lyle was swept along with the crowd. As they neared the pajama department, Lyle thought he heard a familiar voice. "Lyle! Lyle!" the voice called out. Lyle recognized the voice right away. Who could it be? And he recognized the face. The voice and the face belonged to Hector P. Valenti, star of stage and screen. But what was Signor Valenti up to now? Well, for the moment it seemed he was very busy selling pajamas. Lyle remembered unhappily his days of traveling and performing with Signor Valenti. But despite everything, the two were so delighted to see each other once again. In another part of the store, Mrs. Prim searched frantically for Lyle. "Excuse me," she said to the lady at the information booth, "have you seen a crocodile going past? He was wearing a red scarf." "No," answered the lady, "I have no information about a crocodile wearing a red scarf." "Excuse me," said Mrs. Prim to the sporting goods salesman, "have you by chance come across a crocodile? His name is Lyle." "Sorry, madam," answered the salesman, "I have not come across any crocodiles named Lyle today." Mrs. Prim grew more and more upset. "Excuse me," she said to a man wearing a white carnation, "I have lost my crocodile and I don't know what to do." Whatever the man answered, Mrs. Prim never heard it, for his voice was lost in a chorus of other voices shouting, "More! More!" I wonder what's going on. Those voices belonged to the huge crowd of shoppers surrounding Hector P. Valenti and Lyle, because they had an audience, and because Signor Valenti could not resist showing off. He had persuaded Lyle to join him in a free performance of their old stage act. "More! More!" the surprised but delighted shoppers called out, forgetting all about wanting or even needing pajamas. Mrs. Prim finally caught up with them, just in time to hear still another voice charged with fury. "What is going on here?" Well, kids, we're going to have to wait till part 2 of this story to find out who said that and what is going to happen to Lyle and Signor Valenti. I hope you join me the next time when we get to finish this book, Lyle Crocodile. See you next time at Wildcat Storytime.